what's going on, guys? It's your boy KLA, Cloud the Wanderer. Yeah, and that was the animation of this brother here, Cam, animation director. He's a rapper also. Yeah, he's gonna tell his story how he started animation and hip hop. Yeah, glad you can come and we can talk.
I appreciate you, man. Here for the youth. uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so no,
How
you
long
asked
did it?
away because I can go on tangents, and my brain is always spazzing. So you got to
uh,
ask the questions, man.
Well, I mean, how long it took you to do that animation reel?
Which the real,
Yeah,
as far as the culmination of the work altogether, or you mean putting the reel together itself?
the animation, the putting the reel together.
So that is when it's a tricky question because
All right,
to get to the real, I had to go through steps like the journey itself, right? Every aspect matters. And so, I mean, hell, 45 years in the making. But no, but on the other tip, we'll say um, on a professional level, probably 25 years in the making.
yeah.
Because I
Oh,
graduated with a degree in minor in storyboard, but back when storyboarding was just like flat panels and people weren't doing animatics and all that because we were initially drawing everything on paper, scan it in, Photoshop it, back in the day, good early 2000s. So
okay.
from there, it moved on to, I mean, the major was animation, but it was 3D animation, which I didn't care for. Didn't pay attention in school. I wish I had, though, because of where the future went.
Yeah,
However, personally, I'm okay on a making a career thing, more money and all that stuff. Yes, the more you know, the better, right? More knowledge. But I personally, there's this thing with 3D. I respect the art form. I respect all art forms. It's art. But as a personal preference, I can go probably for the rest of time without watching a 3D cartoon again.
yeah.
Like I, I feel the burnout, but I'm saying that now. There could be one that comes out and it's so, dude. I didn't even watch the sequel to the second season to what's that thing called? Arcane?
Arcane.
Yeah, on
Arcane.
Netflix. So Arcane, if you haven't watched it, y'all should. It's really, really good work, good animation, but just my personal affinity to 2D animation versus 3D. It's why, you know, I've been struggling with 3D, man. Watching it, I mean, like enjoying it. Even the
Yeah,
new Predator thing that came out, I watched it. I enjoyed for what it was, but I will never repeat it again. Love, Death, the Robot, all the 3D episodes. Watch them once, move on. But guess what? I do rewind and watch the episodes again. It's the 2D ones. All the ones that are 2D, there's something about it, the magical 2D animation. I feel 3D has its own magic too. Don't get it twisted. It serves its purpose. It has its place. I would use it in projects also, backgrounds, vehicles. There's places for 3D, but there's just this, compared to all the Disney 3D stuff that's come out, compared to all the Disney classics that were 2D,
yeah,
it's just, just
yeah.
say
Yeah. I noticed they just doing constant 3D, and then
because it's easier.
they
It's quicker. It's easier. It's more accessible, and that's why
yeah,
it's like 2D. It's because I'll admit, yes, there's a level of having to know what you're doing in 3D. You do have to
yeah,
have talent. No, you don't have to have talent, excuse me, or a gift. You have to be consistent, have patience, and a lot of times you're really good at calculating and math. Yes, the animation part is is you're creating keyframes and all that. You still need to know where everything goes and
yeah,
all that. But because it's more based on programming to do a lot of the in between stuff, um, there's a little less aspect of I won't say skill. It's tricky, but I'd say on a talent tip, you can't remotely wing 2D animation. You can't wing it. You have to know what you're doing. You literally have to know anatomy, drawing, all that stuff. Whereas in 3D, you don't have to know that. A lot of times you can download a model from online and use it, rig it real quick, just learn where the elbows, wrists, and stuff are, and it's done. 2D animation, you don't do the downloading models. You have to draw every single frame if you're doing traditional 2D, not flash animation. But see what I said about tangents? I'll be going in. And the reason why I said that is because I didn't quite fully answer the question. So I'll say, well, I did, I guess. I did answer it by saying 25 years in the making. But the reel itself, animation for me, officially animation itself on a pro level, because I was doing storyboards for most of the 2000s, and I went into music videos. Just fell off animation, just got into music and started doing music videos, live action music videos for clients and all this stuff. Then one day it just became, it was hard to find the right team at the time, budget-wise, to do the music videos that I wanted to do for myself. Because I have a very Eminem-ish, Big L, that whole animated style of flow and a lot of layers. And, so just getting a homeboy to shoot that, I just felt would not be doing me service. And then I didn't have the budget to get that type of video made. So I was like, hey, you know what? Let me do a storyboard for how I want my video. And then 3 years later, I think it took like 3 years, I went back and watched that storyboard. I just happened to come across it, and I started doodling in 2D animation. So I was like, man, maybe I can actually animate this. At the time, I hated the idea of having to animate anything because I hate the patience I didn't have at the time. I was like, drawing characters, move along. But then when I started, because I'm just storyboard, so I'm like, storyboard is just a loose version of animation.
Yeah.
So it was like, let's bridge the gap and let me do the in-between frames between my storyboards and see how this goes. And over time, training, practice, you keep going and going, still learning. I'm always a student to the game. Finally, I was able to do a music video for myself, in animation. Didn't need anyone else to do anything. Didn't need a compositor because I already had that experience in music videos. And so, yeah, that's where it kicked off. I'd say officially, like, something I was absolutely proud of, besides the fight scenes and stuff that I was known for putting out online.
Yeah.
The thing that really personal was the music video, because I was like bridging all my skills together.
Yeah. Did you always wanted to be an animator?
No.
No, what did you want to do?
Be an animator, ever. I wanted to create characters. I wanted to create universes that I could direct other people. I could be a filmmaker who uses animation as the medium. But me actually animating, I did not want it. But it happened because I got into it. To be honest, it was the technology is what did it. It was technology.
Yeah.
I'm from an era where we had to scan every single piece of paper in. So that was not appealing to me at all. And I remember that was the main reason why I didn't want to get into 2D animation. It was like, I love 2D animation to death. Anime, Disney, all the stuff. I love it. But I don't want to sit there for hours drawing on paper after paper and you don't have an undo button either. When you mess up, you use the eraser. It's a lot more labor intensive. And that's what I was saying. 2D animation got to have a different kind of respect, that you got to give those people, especially all the old anime. Think of the 80s, man. All those animes back then, Ninja Scrolls, all these things. I think Ninja Scrolls early 90s, but
93.
All those. 93?
Yeah.
Hand-drawn, all that stuff. And it's like, yo, I'm always going to be baffled and absolutely amazed at the things they were able to accomplish before the levels of technology that we got today. They didn't have any of that. All the 3D cars and stuff you see in 3D in animes these days, all hand-drawn back in the day. Yeah, so it was like, yo,
when it came out, it looked cool, but then I guess when it's just the constant, like the 3D animation, then it's like that you start missing the 2D animation.
You do. And it's
Yeah.
because 2D takes time. So
Yeah.
the gaps between like real dope 2D animation is few
Yeah.
and far between. You get a lot of animes because they grind
Yeah.
over there. Underpaid artists, overworked, but they're freaking phenomenal. I will
Yeah.
always envy the skill level of some of these anime artists, even people in the States. When I'm seeing people on my timeline, I'm like, I got my own style and I like the way I do my things. But it's like, how, man, the patience to do the smoke, the fire, the blade, the and then all the I'll do dynamic animation and stuff, but
Yeah.
that patience they have and the skill level, it is something else, man. But it's few and far between when you see those come out that they're so superb. It's like the movies like The Raid and John Wick and all those, when they have phenomenal choreography, stunt coordination.
Yeah.
You don't see that every day in Hollywood. So when they come out, we adore them. We hold on to them. Yo, have you seen this new one? Because the skill level it takes to do those type of fight scenes is something else. So,
Yeah.
and then the budget, I think, a lot of times. So, like Marvel are able to keep churning out movies, but if you notice, no other Marvel movie has been able to accomplish Winter Soldier level of fight choreography. You know, because first of all, it's expensive. It takes a long time. Same thing as 2D animation. That's the point I'm trying to get. Is that with 2D animation, same level with the stunt coordination stuff. The better the fight scenes, the more time it took to make those. That's why you don't get a Matrix every day. You don't get a
Yeah.
Matrix on Netflix every month. But you will get a whole bunch of mediocre stuff because it's cheaper, it's quicker. You don't run the risk of hurting your staff or your crew, and you move along to the next thing. And guess what? People will still come in droves and pay billions, not pay billions, but they'll make the movie billions for being okay, being average. So why should they go the extra mile? That's Disney's motto also. Frozen astronomically made money out the world, more than half, I think more than all, if I'm not mistaken, all their 2D stuff back in the day. Lion King maybe, and Beauty and the Beast maybe. I'm not sure about because I don't really pay too much attention about revenue stuff.
Yeah.
Not an executive producer, but I feel 3D is just it's cheap. It's
Yeah.
it's cheaper to do. It's
I didn't
100%.
know that.
Yeah.
But then again, you're right, because they do have these programs where you don't have to have like a level of drawing and stuff. You can just animate. So
Right.
yeah.
You just
Yeah.
need to know. So being an animator and being a drafter are two different things. Just like a fashion designer, you
Yeah.
can be really good at stitching clothes together, but doesn't mean you're really good at designing clothes.
Yeah.
So that's why you have different stages. You have a character designer. An animator might suck at creating characters, so that's why you lean on a character designer. And then an animator may not be the best at storyboarding. Storyboarding means you're coming up with scenes. But the
Yeah.
storyboarding, you may not be the best animator. And so that's why you have someone else do that stage. Some of us have studied and trained and gone through the works to where we have a little bit of everything. We're a jack of all trades in it.
Yeah.
Conceptual, storyboarding, animation, live action, voice acting. We got to do some of that ourselves for our own characters, bring them to life. Compositing, all that, music engineering. We got to learn all that because when you ain't got the budget to hire particular individuals in those fields, you got to do it yourself. It's one of those situations.
Yeah. Like at what age you started drawing, and then at what point? No, I said at what age you started drawing.
No, I'll let you finish your question, then I'll answer.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll
and,
answer.
and then it's like when like what school did you go for? You just studied animation?
So I'll say I started it from as far back as I remember, 3 years old. I think that's the earliest I
Wow.
remember anything. So I'll say that's when I remember starting to draw.
Yeah.
And that's when my mom knew I had the skill and talent. My uncle trained me on how to draw things more proportional. Um, make sure you learn what part of the body's what, so you're not making janky looking stuff like a lot of kids' art. It's beautiful, it's imaginative. I love kid art, but it's kid art, right?
Yeah.
So you elevate that way. You listen to people who are just you're a student. You be a student to the game every day of your life, and you never become a master. The only master you become is a master student, a master learner. And I feel that's the best pocket to be in because you're always evolving, you're always growing, you're always willing to learn. Whatever age group you keep going. So I'll say 3 was when I started that. I took it more seriously, probably around mid-teens.
Yeah.
And then I went to school, Art Institute of Dallas. That's where I went to the art school. It's not necessary to do so. Yeah. If anyone's trying to get in, anyone listening and wanting to get in to animation and stuff for any art field, I'll tell you right now, all they care about is what you've done artistically. I've never been asked by any studio ever, what school did I graduate from?
Yeah.
They may check that on my resumes whenever I turn those in, but mostly they want to see your reel. They want to see what you're good at, and they want to see your resume, not necessarily for what school and all that you went to, but more so your work ethic, your employment history, seeing how consistent you've been with jobs, how long you had gigs for. And yeah, I'd say it's my train of thought because I told you I'd be spazzing. Remind me where we're at. Remind me where my brain was at.
Well, you did mention that they like the companies that you've been to, they don't really ask, like they don't really like focus on your background so much, but like they'll pay attention to the reels.
Background, yes, to an extent, just because of work ethic. Because you can hire. I've had where I've worked with the most skilled and talented artists, but they were nightmares to deal with because communication sucked. That's pretty much it. Communication is the worst thing in any job, really. It's when people just don't know how to communicate, and it's ironically enough in an art school that was the main thing we were trained to do is communicate. There was a whole class of oral communication that we had to take in Art Institute of Dallas. And I was like, why are we taking this kind of class in an art school? Because you're going to have to learn how to communicate your ideas and your thoughts, not just your creative ideas, but when you need to deal with challenges and contingencies. When you're dealing with clients and producers and directors, you're going to need to know how to convey your strengths and your weaknesses and your frustrations. And a lot of the younger you are, unfortunately, in this day and age, the less patience and the less learning on that tip occurs. So, unfortunately, a lot of communication breaks down, and you have a hell of a nightmare situation with an artist who was the greatest artist you could find, and was out there, phenomenal. But would you want to work with them ever again? Whew. And that's what happens with a lot of these resumes and stuff. Not even just art, but any kind of job. It's, are you good to work with? Are you fun to work with? It's why sometimes you'll see Hollywood actors falling off. And you're like, what happened? That guy's phenomenal at acting, right? Still young, still great. Because they're probably a nightmare to work with, and a director's not going to want to deal with them. Nor is an agency, nor is a producer, and that's just what happens. So you got to learn the ropes of patience, diplomacy, and communication skills. So yes, that's a major part of it too. Yeah. So yes, background, that's part of why people look at resumes. But as far as school, I don't want to discourage anyone in saying that you have to go to school. You have to be able to pay all those expensive. I'm still in debt from back in early 2000s. And it's doing nothing for my art skills. All the gigs I ever got were not through my job. I mean, not through my school. So
no, I wanted to ask, since you graduated, what studios you went to? Have you went to mainstream on animation?
Yeah, I did some stuff for Universal. I did some stuff for 2K and Gearbox. They got 2K games. They do a lot.
Oh, 2K, that the long beard dude. 2K
for a game back in the day called Battleborn.
Oh.
It wasn't a major success of a game, but still, I was able to do some cinematic storyboards for that. Then I've done stuff with Ziggy Marley. You know, that's Bob Marley's
Okay.
eldest son, I believe. Um, I've done, just different artists with Universal again. And then I did stuff for Nickelodeon. Um, yeah, pretty much. And then most of the other stuff is just independent or for independent, smaller clients, more because most people are independent these days anyway.
Yeah.
And big studios, they can be challenging, man. It's a dream. You get there. Oh my God, I got to work on the Turtles. But then by the second weekend, you're like, oh my God, I'm working
Yeah, I
on
seen
the
your
Turtles.
your reel with the Ninja Turtles. They cool. Actually did that. I was like,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
that's dope.
That was
Yeah,
that was that was in the show and everything. Yes, sir. And that was
yeah,
a challenge too. That whole journey was they switched out directors before orientation day. Like the person who hired me wasn't even any on the job anymore when I officially
yeah,
started.
yeah.
And so like the whole direction changed, the shift of how the show became. It ended up going from more of a slightly mature, still like
Right.
younger teen to more like 8-year
Yeah.
olds, that so the whole style
Right.
changed and it was a journey, man, but no complaints. It was a learning curve, learning, and you really get to test and learn your weaknesses. As great as you think you are in your skills and
Right.
talents, boy, you get to learn. You ain't ready necessarily all the time, so I see you
Right.
got my IG up.
So I'm trying to find the Ninja. Yeah, I'm trying to find a Ninja Turtle thing that you did.
It's probably
Yeah.
higher up.
Well, okay.
Yeah, that's just a little
Samurai Ninja. It's cool.
practice stuff that I did. Yeah, a character that we designed with a friend back in the day. The Turtles one.
Uh,
Is it
I
even
think this
on?
is it.
Oh, there, that one. Yeah, that one. It's pretty long though, so you might want to
Yeah.
pick and choose.
Yeah. It's cool. Like, wow. So
So
this
yeah,
was
we
like
got to come
Tales
up
of
with.
the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, Tales of Ninja Turtles. Yep.
Oh, I never heard
So,
of that one.
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's actually pretty good. As much as I'll talk about how it can be pretty kiddish, they
Yeah.
were able to sneak in some cool stuff, man. They used a lot of Jackie Chan referencing in the fight scenes. I remember that's one thing they did tell us whenever we were doing action
Mm.
was to do
Yeah.
to study a lot of the Jackie Chan stuff and that old '80s Hong Kong cinema. And they ended up using a lot of that stuff in the show. So it's a pretty cool show, man. You should check it out.
Right.
It's on Paramount. I mean, you can probably catch it wherever you catch your shows, but it's Paramount.
Yeah. Oh, it's so. Oh, the Paramount stream. You gotta
You got
pay.
Paramount Street, yep. So you
I
can
gotta
catch
pay
it on
for
there.
my
And it's a
cable.
full on,
I
it's
don't
a full
know.
show and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. This is cool. Like, how long did it take you to do this?
Man, that was each scene. Oh, that's tricky to answer. I'd say each scene you're supposed to
Okay. I
spend.
won't. I won't. Did you do this all by yourself, or did you have like a team?
Oh no, yeah. No, so I did the storyboarding. So the storyboard is all the black and white stuff you see.
Oh,
I came
okay.
up,
You did the
coming up
storyboard.
with the scenes, revising
Okay.
some things, and
The
then you send that.
animatics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The animatics. Then you send that off to. Uh, then we turn it in, and then it was sent off to Titmouse, which is the animation company that did it. I believe they're the same ones who did Castlevania. I think. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim Mouse is pretty beastie, man. They're pretty raw. They did some of the coolest episodes on Love, Death, and Robot. So when I heard that we're going to be working with them, they're going to be using my storyboards to come up with some scenes. It was pretty cool, man.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an interesting journey, man, because it's such a different style than what I'm used to. I don't do a lot of kiddie based stuff, so it was different. It was definitely different.
Yeah. What was like the hardest thing you was doing as like working in these studios?
Um, Getting feedback is probably the hardest thing to deal with, because as an artist, you know you did something the way you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
You know, you did it that way for a reason. But now when you have a client or a producer tells you that's not how they want it, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, well, you have to change
Yeah.
things, and you're like, but I like it that way. I want him to kick that way. I want him to, you know. They're like, yeah, but no, that's not what we need for this scene. Da, 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 da. And it's like, but my cinematography is better. And then they're like, yeah, but that's too much, you know, because as an artist, you know, and you have to be humbled sometimes. Sometimes they do know what they're talking about. Most of the times they don't. As you can see, why director's cuts of movies come out, and the director's cuts are always 90% of the time better than the studio or the theatrical release. It's the same thing, but that is, I'll say, is the hardest thing, man. Any artist will tell you, dealing with a client's vision that trumps your art direction is the toughest thing you will deal with. I will say that is the second toughest thing, actually. You ever heard of writer's block?
Yeah.
So there's an equivalence of that with art. And when you have a client and you have a job and you have to work, the universe doesn't care, nor does the job. To an extent, they understand artists go through things, but ultimately they have deadlines and they need you to produce. But when you're going through a funk and your art is just not coming out right, it's like, what is going on? I'm drawing my ass off, but it's just not looking right. I don't understand what's going on. And it sucks when that happens. And sometimes you just need to keep going and practice, because when you do so many different facets, you know, you're animating for one season for a whole client. That's all you're doing is animate. Then you have another client who hires you to storyboard. Then you shift your whole gear to do that, because it's a totally different method. You know, you do that. And then you have another client come up and say they want to do character designs. Now your character designs have to take a whole different venture, because storyboards, as you can see, are very rough and very suggestive lines, versus a character design that needs to be a little more crisp. But when you spent half a year or, you know, working just storyboards, then you have to get back into train your mind again to get back. I'll say that's probably the most difficult thing, the most challenging thing as an artist. It's the switching gears, and then styles. When 1 second you're doing Cowboy Bebop type art style, you know, like more mature and proportional characters, or you're doing like super dynamic, cool shots and all that. And then the next second you're doing a very straightforward, a client doesn't want all that extra. They just want the straightforward stuff. And that's where you get, your whole goal in life is to get to a point in life where you can start saying no to things you don't want to do or you don't like doing. Well, obviously, that's the dream for everybody. Otherwise, we would all be in euphoria, you know, not euphoria, utopia, if that was the case. But I'd say that's the most challenging for sure.
Yeah, I was looking at your stuff. It looks like you have like this style of what's the name of that cartoon? Samurai Champloo, Afro Samurai.
Afro Samurai, I appreciate it. That's crazy. Yep.
I didn't see that. I didn't really see it like that. That cartoon like that, but I've seen. I see how it looks, and
no, Afro Samurai goes hard, man. You should delve into it. I use all those as studies. Ironically, though, I use more live action as my director.
Yeah. I noticed that. More like, Yeah, I want to play like your video, the Thundercat. The sort of omens rap. Yeah, check that out. That's cool. I like that. Yeah.
Yo, a devilish heathen, a evil black level 6 demon. Spit flows like a level 6 priest until every bar feels like a Genesis beating. Bad. I'm your nemesis feasting on your flesh when you're in bed and you're sleeping. From the medicine for your headache this evening, and I'm eating till your skeleton's vegan. I'm reaching into that very sick region of my brain that can make the devil kiss vegan. Sicker than the factor's genital region that's reeking with a swelling that's leaking. A predator creeping, stronger than the smell of an elephant queefing. The kind of guy that'll make a low self-esteem dude's girlfriend show up to the wedding and leave him. I'll be the reason you're wearing quick reaching, and I don't give a damn like the fella from Eden. If they don't let me into heaven, I'll sneak and grab an angel by his feathers and beat him. Pow! I'm a rebel with reason, a freedom fighter ever since semen. A warrior whose weapon is reading, and I'ma beat him till I'm dead and done breathing. I'm not a fella that you fellas want beef with, an LMC with 2 testicles needed. To get it cracking like the streets be looking after an Optimus Prime versus Megatron sequence. Sword opponent, soaring Odin, go toe to toe with Conan, Storm, and Logan. Put out the sword of Roman and hordes of Romans, and I have a meeting with your power in my bedroom this evening. Servants rolling from all the boning, left her in the corridor alone and moaning. Got the revolver loaded for the motor to murder every rapper breathing and the relatives even. Got your daughter closing with all the clothing, off in the hallway holding a gloves and groping. Cut your torso open for organ doning like a penis, a candy wreck that will never be beaten. A new developing species, flow harder than a pelican's beakers. I demonstrate, embrace hell to the temperature in heaven increases. Hard colder than the weather British reader, wicked as a piss, jealous chick scheming ahead of philanthropists with pants and fists until the O2 level in the breath is depleted. You better have a better physique than He-Man and think of ever defeating me when I hold a pistol with meaning and give the facial features a skeletal treatment. Even Jesus against the red is uneven like 1, 5, 7, or 3, 10. Men couldn't have me begging or pleading, cause I'm a creature with an impeccable defense. Policeman, I put a spell on this season to drink a liter of pus and yellow piss semen. I'm Dumbledore, wonders off, I grab Harry Potter and then I possess him with Legion. Flow hotter than the desert in Egypt, hotter than Rihanna dressing indecent, hotter than you probably get if you find out that I sighted your mama with no protection this weekend. With a verse or two, I serve a few crews and have MCs running from me yelling and screaming. The urban use, verbal Bruce Lee dropping punches over kicks with an incredible speed. And me and Jehovah's who's saying Harry and a lot came to an agreement that no one ever did need him. Santa Claus, I'm ingesting his spleen and body slamming him on until his sled is in pieces.
Thunder! Thunder! Thundercast!
Yep.
Crazy. Yeah, yo, that like how did you did all that animation sequence with that, and then when you had like a election with you and Shitara, she grabbing you up and all that stuff, that was fucked up.
Oh, I wish I did that video when I was a little more seasoned as an animator though. Because I'm like, I watch it every time and I'm like, oh, I'm so much improved since then. But hey, you gotta have those old school.
How long ago was that?
Oh man.
How long ago was that? Yeah, you kind of look skinny, a little slimmer.
Maybe a decade?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very long time ago.
Do you have albums out? Do you got albums out?
So hip hop, the way it happened in my journey, it wasn't the journey for me, apparently. To an extent, I won't say that completely because obviously you just listened to something I did. But to follow it as a career, I ended up that gear ended up switching real quick when I lost a whole bunch of music twice. So
what you mean, like
hard drives? Yeah, hard drives, not having the budget or the wherewithal to, it's all self accountability. I should have backed up stuff and all that stuff, but hey, it happens. And you lose it, you don't have the money to recover it, and if you do, you don't. It was a whole storyline. I lost a lot of music, I'll say. Lost a lot of music. And so
we ain't all meant to be rappers.
It does, man. Exactly right. So it was like I wasn't meant to be an industry rapper. So I decided just enjoy it, do it as a hobby. And I still write my ass off. I still feel like you probably rap circles around 90% of the people doing it. If people heard what I put to paper, that I just don't be releasing too much. It's more therapeutic to me. Sometimes I'll release stuff, but overall I have dozens of verses. Dozens. I have probably thousands. And I'd say probably over a good 700 to 800 that have never been heard verses. Because I just bars, and it's more so always a budget or time. It's one or the other. because I want things to sound right. You know, I don't want to just record and put out, and it's like a struggle to listen to. You know, that independent sound. The struggle independent sound. There's a professional one where people do take time and whatever to get it engineered right and all that. But hip hop is more than just bars, man. It's more than just putting pen to paper, hopping in a studio and recording. You got to worry about engineering, mixing, mastering. You got to understand the climate of your demographic, who you're rapping for, you know. So ultimately, when all that just becomes so much noise, you just realize at the end of the day, I was always rapping for me. I'm my number one fan. And if people hop on that train and come along with the journey to me rapping within for myself, therapeutic, whatever, and it's able to touch someone else, more power to it, all good. But the notion of rapping for other people, oh boy, that's, I don't think that ever gelled with me. I don't think it was ever meant for me, because I would have had to have adjusted my style. I would have had to make music that I didn't want to make. And I feel art, because I'm feeling that in animation. I'm feeling that in all other art forms where you're doing things that just don't speak to you. You know, you don't have, it just doesn't speak to you. And you're forcing yourself because you got to pay bills, you know? That's what you know how to do. But the passion does get tainted after a while, so you have to keep yourself motivated. You got to keep finding why you love art, and always delve into doing some sketch or something personal for yourself to remind you that art is about self-expression. Everything else is just a product. That's how I look at it, you know? It's art too. Products can be art also. But I feel genuine, authentic artistry is always art that speaks from within. I'm not going to say cliche of the soul, but even just scientifically, it's what personally something you had to say, and you chose a medium to say other than just speaking, and you decided art was going to be a form of how you say what you want to say, whether it's a philosophical viewpoint, political viewpoint, spiritual. And that's the kind of art I resonate with. And I feel a lot of industry stuff, whether it's music, movies, animation, whatever it is, I think any medium is always tainted by industry standards, money, producers, executives, the status quo. People don't want to take as many risks as we once upon a time used to. So I love the fact that, to an extent, that rap didn't work out in that way, because I don't know if I'll still love it. You know? I don't know if I'll still be passionate about it. And so it's a bittersweet, you know, it's like, man, I wish the world could have heard every bar, you know? But then again, if the world heard every bar, I may have been compelled to rap to please them, you know? Right. Oh, this ain't hot. This ain't what's in right now. This ain't, what do they say? What's the jargon for the kids these days when something's dope? Lit.
Yeah.
So many different things.
Yeah, I know that they're referred to as YNs. That's the recent term for them, YNs.
The YNs, man. So yeah, I never want to be in a world where I have to rap for YNs.
Yeah.
I don't mind rapping for myself, and if I'm speaking to a younger person or whoever, because I have verses for everybody that I address. I touch on different ideas, and that's always been my way of how I do things. I like to be adventurous and challenge myself to talk about any topic and subject matter. So I have music that can resonate, that other people can resonate with, but I don't make it for other people, if that makes sense. It's a double-edged sword, because you're not in a cocoon. You do want ultimately somebody to hear a verse. But then, am I willing to, sacrifice aspects of my artistry for the sake of someone else enjoying it? I'm not. But I will do it, again, for a job, because that's just That's what that is. But then again, I don't also hold a dear connection with an artistry with those. There's a form of artistry, yes. But it's a lot of double speak, if you understand. It's hard to pinpoint because I don't want to just be pretentious and say this is art and that's not art. It's all art. Even Sexy Red. It's art. It is art. Someone either wrote her bars for her. That person was a talented person. Her reciting it, whether I believe she can do well at that part of the rap thing, is subjective. Art is subjective. So long as it makes you feel something, so long as it makes you can resonate with it. And to her, she might resonate. To her, it might be so. I feel it is self-expression. I feel most of the stuff she says really is her. That's what she's living. That's what she's experiencing. So that is art. Now, whether it's sophisticated art or, intricate or layered philosophical art, not all art has to be that, And so to some people, the industry does work for them in favor of the type of person they are, how they were raised, what things they resonate with, what they hold dear. It was not built for me. I see things on a different scope or perspective that just was not going to be compatible with the way I work. So someone can say it's coping, though. It's a way of coping, but it's a reality. I feel I really would have, because I don't love the industry. I don't love the hip hop. This is more so speaking to hip hop. There's not enough gatekeeping, and I know gatekeeping is a dangerous thing, in any industry. But I feel it's what kept a lot of beautiful art alive in the first place. There was a time where you would say, "Nah, that's whack. I don't want that on my album," or "Nah, we ain't recording that." But now it's like everything's so lovey-dove, kumbaya, give everyone a shot, give everyone a chance. So now you get that, give everyone a chance sounding music, And so I don't miss that. I don't miss that at all. Nope. I don't envy them. Yeah. I think the one envious thing is maybe I wish I wasn't born with my type of mind, and it would have been easy to just jump in and just be like everyone else and make a lot of money and just live in bliss, right? But then again, would I have loved that? I don't know. Yep.
I mean, some people they look at hip hop now. It's like really too degenerated, demonic. It's like a lot of like killing in the music and sexual things.
That's always been the case, though.
It's always been like that, but
no. Let me rephrase. Let me not say that, because that could have been ignorant for me to stick with that. For majority,
I meant to be like it always been like that, like a point, but it wasn't like to an extreme. And now gradually it got into an extreme part.
We say that. So we can say an extreme in how they act out, how they express themselves, unfortunately, because they were not taught how to deal with their anger and pain. Even back in my time, there's a lot of young people, the YNs of that generation, that were unruly and everything. But there was a difference in being taught how to deal with it, just handle hardship. This generation, unfortunately, is not being trained how to handle it. So the moment something doesn't work out, they lash out on everyone else. It's the era of no accountability. And unfortunately, that's kind of been a thing just in our culture in general. It's where we've been trained to be victims for so long that we never see the flaws in our own way. It's hard for a victim to see their own villainy within themselves, towards themselves, or towards others, because they've been victim for so long. All they know is how to look like a victim, be like a victim, and talk like one. So, the moment you're no longer, a complete victim, we're all victims of society, but the moment you are more in a privileged situation and you still can't see that, entitlement gets born. That's what starts happening. You start being an entitled victim. An entitled victim is the most dangerous person in the whole world. Someone who feels they're justified in every action they do because woe is them. And unfortunately, a lot of hip hop was built on that foundation. There was a beautiful part of hip hop that started initially with just talking to your own peers, the camaraderie, and just the skill versus skill, and just the soul of it, you know? It had a little element of funk and jazz and all that stuff. The same things that drove those industries was the same thing that initially was driving hip hop until it became cool to be the bad guy. You know, the 80s really took part in that, where a lot of these gangster movies came out, all the Godfather, I think the latter part of the Godfather series, Scarface, all these other movies started coming out and started being more popular. The mafia movies have always been there, but the fact that now they're becoming more popular, more seen around the world, more accessible, you didn't just have to go to the theater, because when you had to go to a theater, your parents had to take you, right? And you had to sneak in to watch something like Godfather, which wasn't as easy back then. Versus today, anyone can watch it. Even back in the 90s, you could just go rent a DVD from Blockbuster, get one of your uncles to rent it. Or you just sneak when mom and dad ain't around, you can easily pop in a VHS and watch whatever. So that built this whole thing to where now sonically, musically, it started bleeding into how our music is. If you notice, that's what they're all emulating. Biggie, all of them, mafioso, that's what they're emulating, you know, gangsters and mafia and all that. And because it's the lifestyle, unfortunately, they're trained to believe they need, or they live in, because there's a lot of people who leave that lifestyle and they don't get caught up in it, right? So it's not a guarantee that everyone gets, you know, beaten up or, you know, taken advantage of psychologically in that. It's just willpower. If you're a stronger-minded individual or more educated, usually it's more to do with education, what you're more educated about. But a lot of gangster dudes, are very educated people, you know, but so I know that I can go on the rants about hip hop all. This could be a whole interview where we just talk about that, but
well,
I
that's
will
your
say
interview,
sure,
man. You know.
Yeah, no, I was just wrapping on that to say that, yeah, we got to be careful when we say the YNs of today are worse or whatever. It just seems a lot. It is the more high statistic, but it's also because they have more access to it. They have more access to weapons. They have more access to each other, you know? It's easier to pinpoint where someone is because they're posting on Instagram, I'm over here, and now you can show up at their party like nothing. Back then, you had to kind of gauge. You had to know someone who knows where this person is. There was a lot more homework you had to do to catch someone slipping. And so it was a little harder to do it, to pull it off. Now it's like you can find anyone online. You can literally use AI and Google itself to help you find someone. And if you have enough beef about it, because you're not from an era of punching and kicking, and the easiest thing is just pull that gun out and do what you got to do. And then also the value of life. There's not a lot of momentum behind that in this day and age, because unfortunately they grew up in an era where they've seen COVID, they've seen Afghanistan, they've seen we could go through every other riots and every other thing countries have gone through, every bombing. Well, not Hiroshima, obviously, but a lot of more modern warfare and things that have been going on in the world, right? And they've seen all that. They've seen so many so much black on black. They've seen cops against black people. They've seen white people doing shit. And they've been desensitized over time. We were getting desensitized too in the 80s and 90s when movies started getting a little more graphic and really good looking at doing it. Now you got to look at everything that contributes to this generation. Dude, they can put on Netflix and you get a real bloody scene that looks so realistic. And they don't care because it's desensitized. You're used to it. Oh, it's a movie. It's cool effects. We even judge it. Oh, that don't look real enough. That's how desensitized this generation is to death, that it's become such a thing that And so, unfortunately, some of us still highly, regard life, and we don't want to die, and we don't want to just do foolish shit. But that's also another reason why there's so many avenues to remind them that it's not that important to live, you know? Mm-hmm. And if you even ask them, what do they have? They don't have the Kumbaya raps that I luckily got a bit of with Crisscross and all these other who weren't just talking about shooting you. And I had a good dose of the corny and the MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice. I had that. I had the Ninja Turtles teaching you things and the He-Man and Thundercats. We had a lot of that growing up. And then not just the violent shit, even though there's a lot of violence behind it, but they gave you honor. They taught you a lot of honor and,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah. Even at the end of the shows, they would actually speak to that. They would say, "And
Yeah,
remember,
they
kids, da,
give
da, da, da,"
advice. Yeah,
and they don't have nothing like that
don't
today. They
have
haven't had
that.
that
Yeah,
for
that's true.
almost 30 years. They've not had that.
Yeah.
Everything's so edgy and grimy, and it's got to be so. And as much as I
So it's
don't
our
like,
fault.
I mean, who do they come from? Every generation is
Yeah,
responsible for the next one. And we can say YNs all day, but
yeah,
they learn from someone. I did my
yeah.
fair
It's
share
true.
of,
It's true.
F this, F a B, F a ho. I did my fair share of all that too. So kids were listening. I have little brothers who I don't know what influences I had on them in the negative. I'm sure there's a lot. As much as there's a lot of positive, we also take accountability for things we infused into the world. So we can't just say, man, these kids are this, that. For every
Yeah,
little kid, how do you not think that Nicki Minaj was going to come out, leading to a Cardi B, leading to a Sexy Red? How did you not think that was going to happen when a Kim comes out? It was cool when Kim came out because she could actually rap and she hung out. I don't know if she writes all her stuff or writes any of it, but the fact is her delivery style is from that school of cut from a different cloth,
yeah,
Whereas the symbolism wasn't, it's not Lauryn Hill who won the race, that died out. That became underground. That went back to where it came back to the indies. The other side of it, which is more accessible and easier to do, it's harder to pull off a Lauryn Hill. It's very hard. You have to have
yeah,
actual skill and technique and talent beyond just your looks. You have to be able to say something and people listen to it. Whereas when you are a Sexy Red, you don't have to be the most skilled or talented person. Just look a certain way and you get money. Ice Spice and all these. So
now that you think of it, not to cut you off, not that,
no,
that you
you
think
said
of
so.
it, I think, the one who really, really started it, but they weren't a hip hop artist, I would say Madonna, because she was
Yep,
very
yep, yep,
provocative
yep,
in the
yep,
80s.
yep, yep,
And
yep, yep,
so,
yep,
hip hop, it was at that young stage. And so it started emulating. Because you had
yep,
MC Light, you had Queen
yep.
Latifah, you had other female rappers. They wasn't
Well,
really
unfortunately,
doing that much like that.
no, for real.
Yeah. So,
No. We were lied to, and now we lie to them. And we painted a picture of bliss, like
yeah.
pull up your socks and everything will be okay. That lie that the universe or society has always told each other, and not being willing to look at the trauma, the actual psychological deficiencies. Who's going to walk around admitting they have psychological deficiencies? Who has that?
Yeah.
Ego is such a big thing in our culture. Who's going to walk around and say, I'm broken? My mind is torn. I faced some demons, man, and I've lost to a lot of demons. Many people ain't doing all that, or they'll make a joke around it or laugh around it because that's how they cope with it. But unfortunately, what that does is a kid doesn't know the difference. It's like what Bruce Lee said: when you insult yourself or you tell a joke, when someone insults you or you insult yourself, your mind doesn't know the difference. You see what I'm saying? It still feels what it feels. And so you're still, feeding that to your brain. Oh, I'm ugly, I'm this, I'm that. Even when it's not a joke, but you're saying it enough. Man, I'll never be this, man, da, 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 da. It's no different than your worst enemy telling you that.
Yeah.
You're still feeding that to yourself. So that same thing is how we fed a lot of this stuff to different, but I'm not saying it's all just, it's all lost, no hope. All you can do in this world is be the change that you want to see, or be the change you want to be,
Yeah.
You can't have this hopium that we're going to change the world, kumbaya. I think that was actually always the problem. School, church, we're always taught how to change the next person, or tell the other person how they need to change. Society needs to do this. The president needs to, the government needs to. It's always that person needs to. But it's rarely ever, I need to do this different. I need to change. I need to adapt. I need to adjust. I need to take accountability. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people don't like to take accountability for their choices and actions. So they blame the next person. They become this villain of society. The police did it. The white man did it. My mom did it. My uncle did it. My dad did it. But as long as I can find one person who overcame that, then your story is not justified.
Yeah.
You know, your ability is not just to
Yeah.
play. Some people just like being. It's cool because it's easy. It's easy to not take accountability. So obviously people do it, and then they blame the. It's easy to blame someone when everything goes wrong. It's like they did it. That's so easy. But to actually stand in front of someone and say I was late because I woke up late, I did not set my alarm correctly, and I was irresponsible. Can you imagine just telling your boss that straight up? You know, a lot of times it actually goes a long way. But a lot of people are like, no, you know, someone forgot to put the battery in, you know, da-da-da-da. You know, I don't know what traffic, they did this. You know, yeah.
Yeah, it's
But,
not
you know, that's a whole
easy.
other philosophical thing we can always.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was cool. There's a somebody. He does animation. And he's a hip hop artist. It's called Mr. Cliff Notes. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Yeah, he animates and he raps and stuff like that. He follows you actually. I
Mr. Cliff
see.
Notes. I might have heard. I might have. I think I've seen the term.
Yeah,
I just didn't. Yeah, I might have. Because there's a lot of people we follow each other and all that. So I might have. If you send me something, I'll be like, oh, him. Okay. You know, yeah.
yeah. But let me
What about
show.
it,
No, I mean he does hip hop and he raps and he do animation also. He does I want to send you. I want to show you like his IG, but my computer tends to act up, so I'm
exactly.
trying to
Do this because I do have to. And I'm sorry to even. I'm saying cutting short, but we've at least given an hour, right? I got to get back to this project that I'm working on that I got to turn in tomorrow. So deadlines. That's another thing in the industry, people. Deadlines. I that's not my strength, but I think it's a lot of artists who struggle with that.
It's all good, man.
Hey, accountability. I would say
it's all good.
does it. Accountability. But I gotta hop to it. But yeah, send me whatever, man, and then stay in touch, keep me posted on whatnot. I could
show one of your animations. You could drop out, but
you're still gonna show stuff.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
I would. Yeah, you could drop out, but I was gonna show like the viewers your animation.
Oh yeah.
You know,
so I appreciate you. I appreciate the time, real quick, and I wish you all the best with this podcast, this stream. I wanted to blow up with it. You know, keep improving, keep getting, doing your thing, and
I appreciate
don't get discouraged, man. So, and I appreciate you for having me the time. I'm privileged for the time you've given me, also. So I thank you, and peace to everyone out there. Y'all be good. Enjoy the rest of your weekends, and have a good, fresh week next week. And peace.
Peace, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's Cam. He's signing out, and I'm gonna show him the animation that he did with Wolverine versus the Ninja Turtles. So check it out.
So here's a quick look at a segment from my 8-minute battle between Logan versus Raph. I started this like almost a decade ago as part of my Mutant War series, where I first did Leo versus Cyclops. And so that was like my most rudimentary because I was really just starting off. I think it did show like some cool choreography though. Pretty much where I bring characters from different worlds together for epic showdowns, the whole Mutant War series. And this piece really just shows how much I've grown over the years, both in style and technique as an animator, so some of you might remember those old shorts, but, with the crazy battles, but life's kept me busy, so haven't been able to finish this one yet. But I wanted to share this work in progress to give you a feel of where it's going and could go. You'll see some rough, sketchy stuff mixed with polished animation that shows my process and how the flow of the fight has evolved over time. And of course,
Yeah, man. So that was his artwork, Cam. I'm gonna put his stuff in the description. And I really appreciated him to hop on and share, his experience in animation and hip hop and his perspective of life. And with that note, I'm gonna just wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in.